And the manager was stubborn. He wanted the new person. We were stubborn. We said no. And then he ended it. He contacted all the press before us to say it was over. That part I found really
wow,
disrespectful.
Hey everyone, Nikki here, and welcome to the Riff Yard. I'm joined by a very good friend of mine who has, let me just double check some of these notes, because every time I look at these stats, Lee, these blow my mind. So this is the sweet caveat intro I've got for you. Okay. Selling over 15 million records.
Yes.
Apparently. Lee, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, that's like... yeah, back in the day, because we apart from Europe, sort of started in Germany, really, even though we were based in the Netherlands. But the Bravo magazine, which was the kind of smash hits of Germany, went to many other countries in Europe. So it was kind of like the king of teen magazines back in the 90s. And if you were liked by them, you went all over. So that was that aspect. And then we also did Asia and had success in Asia. So hence the sales and such. Yeah,
that's incredible, man. And of course we'll touch on the early days of being in the pop world and in a boy band and stuff, because that side of things fascinates me about the music industry. It's one part of the industry I've never kind of dived into at all.
Funnily enough, no. I mean, it's kind of thing. Who would, unless you end up in it?
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, well, it baffles me, especially the numbers that you've created over the year, and it's just a testament to your graft and hard work and your talent, really. But you've been active for 31 years now.
Oh my God! Hence the glasses. They're not really thick glasses, just to dude, you literally look early 30s. You look gorge, my friend. You look absolutely gorge. That's great. See, the further back I pull it, hopefully the better it gets.
I need to do that. I need to do more of that.
No, you look great.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
You look great. Yeah, 31 years active. Yeah, in a way it was 31 years, but then there was a chunk when I was kind of, I wouldn't say dormant, because, obviously there were things going on, but the music side of things I'd stopped for many years. I think after the boy band, I lost my confidence as a singer, and I lost the enjoyment from it. I think because it was always this thing of people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're from Caught in the Act. Sing for me then." It was this. I felt like I needed to sort of like prove my success, and it really affected me. And I got in my head, so I gave it all up for many years, and I went back to my original love, which was acting, and my whole dream was to be an actor, a successful working actor. It didn't quite happen as I wanted. I ended up moving into music. So then I focused on the acting for several years, and did jobs here and there and enjoyed it. And then the music sort of happened again through a film I was in. They wanted me to sing the title track of the film, and I didn't want to, but they kind of it was like, you get the part and you have to do the song or you don't get anything. So I did it. And then the fans wanted to get the song, and that's how it all started up again. That would have been back in 2013.
Wow.
I stopped it from like 98 or 99.
Right. Okay. So fair check, really.
Yeah. And I mean, I did meet a few fans because I was doing plays, and sometimes fans would come to the play and meet me afterwards, and they often asked, when are you going to sing again? And I always said, no, I'm sorry, but that chapter of my life is over. And then lo and behold, it's come back with a vengeance, and I'm with the band still, and I'm also doing my solo stuff, and it's really become a massive part of my life again.
It's an incredible story, really, and which is why I find, again, that whole world fascinating, and especially yours, because, again, you could look at some of these stats and what have you, right? 31 years in the industry, 15 million records sold, and magazines and stuff, and there's some amazing photos of you guys back in the 90s on a Google. It's great. It's actually great. Maybe I'll drop some of these in here when in post editing. But
one of my best friends, she used to like wind me up and find the most horrific photos she could of me, like my head in a bush of flowers, all covered in like oil. Like,
oh, I've seen a couple.
Myself.
I've seen some great oiled ones, man. They're fantastic. Yeah,
I was very good at hugging myself as well. That was, God knows why that was a
look from my wife, man.
Work, but this seemed to be a big thing. She used to dig out the worst horrors she could find. I remember once she invited me over for my birthday, and she plastered her house in full big pictures of me, but really the really dodgiest of dodgy ones.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah, I mean, again, like I can't imagine that kind of lifestyle. As you said, you were going for the acting thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got into Caught in the Act, and that's around about what, 92? 92?
Yeah. I just finished drama school, and then I didn't get an agent, and I was absolutely devastated because you finish drama school. It's a 3-year accredited course, so you get your provisional equity card, which was a big deal because, you know, without the card you can't get the work, but the provisional gives you the opportunity to build up the work so you can get your full equity card. So it was all about, you know, landing an agent with your provisional equity card and getting yourself on the ladder, and that was the first time I realized that you never know what to expect, because there would be certain people in our year that you would have thought weren't that standout, and then they were getting loads of interest from agents, and then there were other people who you thought, oh, they're really credible actors, really good, and didn't really get much. So it was a real wake-up call to the business. So I was devastated at the time, trying to be happy for my actor friends who were, you know, getting agents and deciding who to choose. Oh my God, I've got 15 agents to choose from. And you're like,
right. Yeah.
But in hindsight, if I had have got an agent, I would have never have ended up in the bands, because they would have not wanted me to leave the country and pursue a boy band path. They would have wanted me to stay in London, you know, getting the castings and such. So I guess everything for a reason. So I did get an agent, and then I was just looking through the stage newspaper, which at the time, you know, back in the 90s, it was all newspapers and such. And this was a paper that gave you information about the business, and then at the end were the jobs. And
right.
You could, like, scour through that and look for anything that you could do without having an agent getting you a foot in the door.
Right.
And there was this audition for a boy band, and I went for it, and the rest is history. Yeah.
That's so good, man. What a change of fate there.
I know.
You know, sticking all your eggs into the acting career, and just around the corner is this just once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to travel down an incredible journey with.
And move to Amsterdam, to live in Amsterdam. I mean,
yeah, that's like the dream, right? In the 90s.
Who cares if this boy band works? I'm going to Amsterdam to live for a minimum of 2 years, because that was the deal. When he offered me the job, the band had been together for 2 years before I joined, and they were still struggling to get the match of the boys. And I think it was just my luck, because I was the type that was missing, I think, from the band. I was a bit shy. I was kind of, they had the types, and I was this sort of shy one that the manager went, yeah, that's the one. And I went for that audition in August. So we graduated in June or July. I went for this audition in July, I think, somewhere. And then they invited me to Amsterdam for a second audition in August. And I got offered the job there and then. And I moved over there in the following month in September. So when I was graduating from drama school in the June or July, if somebody would have said to me, you'll be living in Amsterdam in the next couple of months, I would have never have believed it, but that's what happened.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was kind of like an explosion from the get-go, right?
No, not at all.
No, it wasn't.
When I first moved over there, nothing was happening. So they were like really excited to get me over there. So I moved there, and then I think for about 6 months, I think we did maybe a couple of rehearsals and one photo shoot, and then it kind of went quiet for several months. I was sort of there just thinking, what am I doing? If you consider this was the time before mobile phones, before the internet, so being able to contact people from home was just impossible. So it was quite a challenge that first 6 months, but character building. I wrote my diary, and I was so ambitious, and I really got it that this was an opportunity not to waste. So that kept me from, saying, I've changed my mind. I want to go back home. So I stuck through it, and I'm glad I did, because that first 6 months was really difficult, and then things started to happen, as in we started to do some paid gigs. The money wasn't brilliant, but it was better than what I was used to. Being a student, I had nothing. So all of a sudden I was earning something with the band, and we were just hoping for the break, and that didn't happen immediately. We had, in the Netherlands, we had 1 or 2 small hits. When I'm talking hits, I'm saying top 40, so not even really a hit. And we had a small following of about 200 Dutch fans that came everywhere. And we did a couple of TV shows here and there, and we released the songs, and basically they flopped, not the success we wanted. And the third single we tried in Germany, that one flopped. And it was coming to that end of that 2 years where we thought, the manager said, if after 2 years it doesn't work, then you can go back home. You don't owe me anything, because he paid for my rent while I was out there to live, and he gave me some pocket money to live on. And the deal would be that if we had success, then I would pay him back. And if it flopped, I could go back home with a clean slate. Oh, I thought, okay.
Well, that's an incredible deal.
Yeah.
Really? Absolutely. You wouldn't find that now?
Absolutely. And coming from being a real poor drama student, this was massive for me. But obviously I wanted to stay, and I wanted it to be a success. And it was getting closer to that 2-year period. And the fourth single we had flopped in the Netherlands, and we were trying it in Germany, and we ended up by chance meeting the people behind one of the biggest soaps in Germany. If I can't even Goeie Zeiten, Schlechte Zeiten. Good times, bad times.
Right, okay.
And it was on every day, and it had about 20 million viewers back in the day, when TV.
Yeah, that's massive.
It was daily, and we ended up in that for about 3 or 4 months, playing ourselves, only German. And that was what got us our first big hit. So it was due to that series. Otherwise, I think we would have been history.
That's incredible. So really, there is a bit of the acting that got you into.
My first acting job.
Yeah, was from the band.
German.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So how quickly did life change after that hit?
Like really? That. It was 2 years of, I was, enjoying being, because I sort of palled up with Ben from the band. He was the other English guy, even though he spoke fluent Dutch, because he'd been living in the Netherlands since he was 9. So he spoke fluent Dutch, but he spoke great English, and we connected, and we used to go out on the, and just have a really good time together. So it was rehearsals, doing a bit of this, bit of that, a little promotion here, release a song, flop, sad, move on to the next song, go out and party. Yeah. So it was all of that going on. Enjoyed Amsterdam. Huh?
Win or lose, back on the booze.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I just enjoyed Amsterdam. And then we obviously got our first hit, and then everybody sort of got really interested in us. So Bravo magazine appeared, all the other magazines appeared, TV. Everybody just wanted a piece of the pie. And I think I found that first 6 months. It's funny because the first 6 months of moving to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, I found really difficult to adjust. Then I kind of got my footing. And then we had our success. And I would say the first 6 months of our success, I struggled because it was, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Right.
Just the energy shift. It was just, it changed everybody. It changed the dynamic. As I said, all these people getting involved, and it threw me a little bit. But then as I said, I was very ambitious and I wasn't letting go for anything, and I stuck with it. And after 6 months, I adjusted to this new crazy roller coaster that we were now on, because it was a lot, you know. Every day there was something happening, and we were booked out like years in advance with stuff. It was crazy, but it was traveling and performing and screaming girls everywhere. It was including at home, outside your house, and everywhere.
Really? Wow. I mean, I can't imagine anything like that, you know. Especially from my time of being in a band, it was big dudes, big long head tattooed dudes.
There's a whole
totally nothing wrong with that. I loved that. But I mean, I suppose having that kind of your privacy, even at that time in the world, just being kind of taken away from you, really. It
was, I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, I didn't realize that what being in a boy band involved.
Right.
I kind of didn't really think about it. All I thought about was, you know, it's going to be, if it's successful, it means I'll open doors for me. You know, in a way, in the back of my head, I kept thinking about opening doors for my acting. That was always kind of there in the back of my mind. You know, the more success you get, the more opportunities you get. It was that kind of
CV building and things like that.
Yeah. So I didn't really think about the fan aspect, and it was quite an eye opener. How how crazy girls can be at that age, you know, when they're when they love a band. It's a different genre from, as you said, from your music, and from many other aspects of music or any field in the creative field. Boy band
is so on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's nothing that even comes close to replicating it, really.
No.
You know, it's
but you know, it was also, and it was a rush because you get all this love coming at you. It's
okay.
I can't that feeling of so much love coming at you. You know, you're high as a kite.
Yeah, of course.
Because of it, you know. So,
how do you come down and kind of get back to earth from that?
Well, back in the day, I didn't really have any tools of how to come down to earth. I just, I think we all would like have a drink after a show. So that was quite common to be drinking after a show to calm down. Obviously now I'm into meditation and I'm into hatha yoga, and I've become very spiritual, but this was something that came after the band. But during the time of the band, I was just on this roller coaster hanging on for dear life. And yeah, as I said, it was quite tiring as well, because there's a lot of travel, and that you're up early and you have long days, and then you're traveling here and there, and it's full on with people wanting time from you. So there's this magazine wants an interview with that magazine. They want to do a photo shoot. This is a radio interview you need to do. There's a meet and greet. There's the show. There's Bravo photo love story. So we need to do that. It was full on. I think it's something that you need to be in your early 20s or younger to not get completely drained. But we were all exhausted for a lot of the time. And then we'd be ready for the photo shoot to go.
Oh God, yeah.
We're all, so it was that side, but it was also this being on stage and all the screaming. It's a strange world. Yeah, you're right. It's
yeah, it's I find it's just so fascinating to me. So fascinating. You know, do you look at people like Justin Bieber and people like that and just think, obviously there's, you know, and, you know, people like Aaron Carter, you know, you know, who sadly died, you know, do you think that there was protection for you guys more than there would have been for people like them? In kind of looking after the product, the people, you know.
Sure. Yes. Well, I think Aaron Carter, I mean, he was much younger. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of that does to you psychologically when you're that young to adjust to this sort of adoration. And as I said, it's like a roller coaster ride. And the high that you get from that is highly addictive. So on that level, I think it would be difficult the younger you are. I was in my early 20s when I joined the band. So I was 22. It's still young, but not that young. And when we had our first, you know, hit, I was 24. So maybe that helped. We were all a bit older, you know, we were all roughly around that age.
Yeah.
That's the band. Bieber, I can't imagine. I mean, he's been successful since he was young, and I think he's been continually successful as a young boy right up until his age. So I have no idea how he copes.
It's because I think it's very easy to. Again, I know a lot of peers in the rock and metal scene who kind of look at, you know, your Aaron Carters and, you know, Justin Biebers and that world and kind of just being like, ugh, you know, whatever, you know, and really kind of like brush it off without thinking of the consequences of just how visceral it can be at times. So again, I've always found that fascinating, especially with me, someone who has, you know, struggles with mental health as well.
Oh, right.
You know, I think I've always had high compassion and empathy for it. So I think for me, as an individual, musician or not, I can look at that situation and go, you know, there's more going on here than that, you know, than first meets the eye, you know. And yeah, so just looking at the infrastructure around those people, you know, it must be, it's going to go one of two ways, isn't it? It's either going to be well protected and what have you, or it's not. You know, there's I'm not sure if you're familiar with there's a rock band called Silverchair from Australia, and they had a hit when they were like 14 years old.
Oh my gosh, okay.
You know, and the singer Daniel Johns really was, and it, you know, was at the time like this massive music child prodigy, you know, and ended up, you know, very similar to you, like was just thrust into this kind of this world, you know, then on these tour buses and flights and, you know, wanting magazine hits on that. And he's, you know, he's come out of it fairly scathed, you know, in some ways, you know, and he ended up marrying Natalie Imbruglia at one point, and he was married to her.
Right,
for a bit, you know, and he's one of my musical heroes. He's an absolute genius, you know, but all of that came at a price.
That's interesting. He married Natalie Imbruglia, because I remember I used to be involved in something called Siddha Yoga, and I know that she also was, because she was at some event where I was at. So maybe he also had an opportunity to connect to a spiritual path, because Siddha Yoga was what saved me after the band. Even though I'm not involved in Siddha Yoga now, but that really was my anchor that helped me after the band finished to get myself mentally and physically and spiritually okay. So it's interesting that you mentioned her, because I know that she was involved in it. And I'm talking, when I met her, that was in America at a retreat, city yoga retreat, and it was for the millennium.
That's this. We're talking around the same time.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, because it was a boxer that got me in, a female champion boxer, a Dutch, I forget her name, but she, a friend of mine knew her, and I met her, and she told me about City Yoga, and this was in '99 or '98. Literally at the time when the band ended, I met this woman who really was such a, her energy was so really inspiring, and that's what made me interested about her, because she was this boxer, so I was expecting something, and when I met her, she was so the opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then she told me about City Yoga, and
if it's all right, Lee, I'd like to touch on some of that a bit more, because there's I think there's something to be said about when something like the ginormous machine that you were on, like, comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
But firstly, how does something like that come to an end? And then how on earth do you kind of go, all right, then what's next?
Yeah,
there's nothing that preps you in life for those things.
No, that's true. I would say that was as hard as it was when the band started, even though we kind of knew what we were getting into. I don't think I'd considered how it would be when it ended. I don't think, which is probably a good thing, because why would you want to sit there dwelling on what ifs?
That's like manifesting the end before it's over, isn't it?
Yeah, or having fear about something that. So I'm glad in a way that I didn't think about that. I was just busy dealing with day-to-day being in this roller coaster. But when it ended, it was not really expected, although in hindsight, I guess it was. One of the guys, Ben, actually, who was the one I was closest with before the band took off, he wanted out, and he left the band, and there were three of us, and we wanted to continue, but the manager wanted to break America, and we had these connections with America, and they wanted to get a new fourth member. And bearing in mind, I was 28 at this time. Benjamin had left, but he would have been close to 30. We were all roughly around late 20s.
Yeah.
They wanted to get this like 18-year-old into the band to join us. And we were neither me, Eloy, and Bass were not happy with that, because we knew how difficult it was being in this bubble together, but we had sort of respect for each other, even though sometimes we got on each other's nerves. But we did have respect for each other, because we did the apprenticeship, we did the dodgy nightclubs and failing and flopping.
Man.
Yeah. And then to bring in an 18-year-old into this like famous band, I just thought they're going to bring in like a Michael Jackson to the Jacksons, and we'll all be like pushed back, and this like 18-year-old will be thrust into the limelight, and we're supposed to just deal with this new dynamic. And I think all of us thought, nah, we'll stay, because we would stick with the three of us, but nobody knew. And the manager was stubborn. He wanted the new person. We were stubborn. We said no, and then he ended it. He contacted all the press before us to say it was over. That part I found really disrespectful, that he didn't have the decency to tell us what he was planning to do. He just did that, and then we were contacted by the press, so he gave our private numbers as well. So we were called by the Bravo magazine. What did you feel about the band ending? What's your statement? Excuse me? So it was
what?
Yeah, so on that level, that was quite a shock.
Well, there's so much betrayal in there.
Yes.
It's that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, when you're in that, I think maybe one of the few parts of being in a boy band or a rock band or a punk band or a girl band is that you are a band. You are a band of brothers and sisters, and it is like a relationship. There's a marriage quality about it all, and you try your best to stick with each other through the good times and the bad.
Yeah.
So when someone's trying to upset the dynamic and completely throw a curveball in there, it is hard to adapt to those things, because you think, well, why should someone who's 18 and young hotshot come into this establishment where they haven't had the hard times? They're only going to receive this pedestal and things like that. It's it's a strange move, in my opinion, to have thought that they could do that to you. And also, the betrayal there, the loyalty, you're a family, and to kind of give out your personal information. And
it was
it's horrid.
It was really difficult. And then we didn't have a chance to do a goodbye show or a tour. We did it. Our final show became our goodbye show, but that wasn't planned. That just happened to be, we were already booked to do this show, and it became our goodbye show. Whereas if we'd have had more time, we could have maybe did a goodbye tour, or there could have been a lot more preparation, which would have been more respectful for the fans, because some fans couldn't get tickets for this event, and that was a shame.
That is awful.
So it all kind of ended really quick. And then he sold the rights to Zix Music, who then approached us to do a goodbye album where we could write our own stuff and put that together, which was interesting. We did that. And then it ended in, the final show was August 98.
Right.
And there was all of a sudden fans everywhere crying, like they were outside my house crying. Luckily, I went to a friend's. She sort of helped me to hide. She had a place in the country, and she moved me in with her there, so that I didn't have to deal with all of that as well. Because apart from dealing with it yourself, there were many fans also suffering, because it was a shock to them as well.
Of course, yeah.
Chance to be somewhere and just process it all myself and grieve about it. And then, realize, well, what am I going to do now?
So, and that is a sudden stop, isn't it? There's no kind of, okay, well, in 8 months' time, this tour's going to be over, and I can make arrangements to do other things, or take some time out that you go, actually, I'm going to go to Disneyland for 8 weeks or something, or something. It's all been decided before you, without you having anyone saying it.
But so I got into the spiritual aspect, and that was a godsend, because I started meditating. I was chanting. I got involved with this City Yoga community. There were like different centers all over the world, and there's one in Amsterdam, and that became a massive part of my life at the time. And that was an eye opener, because I didn't realize that you could go to the gym for the mind. That was just a completely new idea for me, that what you can train your mind to be more expanded and more knowledgeable and more connected to yourself and all of that, So that's the new path that my journey took me on, which is kind of a cliche after something like that, I guess. But,
I think they're there for a reason. I had not nowhere near on that scale, but when I was just like, I just want to have a family, and I'm done with all the other stuff that goes with it. For me, I wanted to just take some time out, and the world stopped spinning for a bit was a good time for me to do all of those things. And I found a lot of that. I'm really intrigued about this yoga thing. My brain's like really going for it. So I think after this, I'm going to have to do a massive research binge about it, because it sounds absolutely fascinating, actually.
Oh, I love the yoga. I've been doing that for almost 3 years now, every day.
I
started during the pandemic. I do online yoga. There's yoga with Adrian, and it's like free yoga online. And I do it every day, and that to me it's just been invaluable for me, physically and mentally and spiritually.
Yeah.
I got to that, I think. And I meditate still. So I meditate after the yoga. And yeah, I can't speak highly enough about that for me.
Yeah.
Again, a cliche, hitting your 50s and getting into yoga, but you know.
No, not at all, dude. You know, I love the meditating thing. That's one thing I do.
Okay, yeah, good.
You know, that's definitely quite literally saved me a few times, I think. That, you know, and it's been a while since I've done it, so maybe the planet's telling me to get back on it. You know, maybe there's a sign there from chatting to you today, so that's amazing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Where did you think, or what point did you think, okay, now you've kind of rebuilt the Lee Baxter from those days, and then thought, yeah, let's get into acting and let's have a badass solo career as well?
Yeah, unfortunately, the acting's kind of moved off. I mean, I did a lot here and there, and I do miss it because I run a venue as well, and I was putting on my own plays there, which was fantastic. But the music sort of took off, and I'm went in that direction. I don't know how. When it all sort of came about, I didn't consider the possibility that I could release my own music. I always thought you need to get a record deal, and it needs to be a big record deal. And which, don't get me wrong, there are many people that have success with that, but it's also, you do put a lot of power into somebody else's hands. About, if they're the ones with the money and the connections, then they have a lot of say in what they want you to listen, how they want your image to be. Like, hence being in the boy band, and you know, we were basically told what to be, and you know, and what to record, and it was kind of, we did it. Now I'm able to write my own music, produce my own music, work with different directors and discuss what we want for the video. You know, before it was like, this is what you're doing, and now I can chat with the director, and you know, and we can work together on what wants to be achieved. So on that aspect, I do love the freedom to choose what I want to do creatively, whether it's recording, writing my music, how it's going to be produced, how the video will be connected to that. And I think I owe a lot of that as well to being older, being wiser, the spiritual path, going through the terrible times when I lost everything and had to sort of start from scratch in a way and build myself up again. So I think that was, as horrendous as it was at the time, I think it was very beneficial for me as a person. I think if you're constantly successful, not for everyone, I think, but for me, if I had have, say, for instance, if the boy band had continued for years, or if I'd have immediately from the boy band become successful and it continued, I think it does affect you in not such a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, everything done for you. It's when it's all taken away, and you have to really kind of think about how you're going to survive. It's a big wake up call. And it's maybe the person I am today. So
that's amazing, dude. Well, that's also how we met.
Yes.
You know, when Francois gave me the call, he was like, dude, can you come down and help? He was like, I can't really say too much about who it's for. And I was like, that sounds very ominous. I was like, okay. And he goes, it's very small. It's, you know, but it has to be. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool, man. Whatever you need to do, I'm coming down. And then I arrived and I'm like, it's Lee Baxter, dude. You know, on the act. And he's like, yeah, I didn't want to say anything prior to it. So I was like, oh, right, okay, cool. You know, and, you know, it's great because, you know, built a lovely friendship from that. But, you know, it's, and that was, you know, I spent a lot of time when I was doing lecturing at university. I would talk about that experience, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was about the professionalism, and it's something that I still think about. And I suppose, as what you were just talking about there, having the knowledge and, you know, the wise head on the shoulders type of thing. The thing that I even said at the front at the time was like, man, I just don't understand how he can be like, yeah, like laughing and joking and stuff, and then it's like, and you're like, straight into character, like not even a flinch, you know, nothing nothing phased you or anything. It was just like bang into character within nanoseconds, and it was just like in there. And I was like, how's he doing that? There's like stuff going on and all this stuff, but you're just like laser eye focused, didn't break anything at once.
I got challenged with that. It was when I did my last video with Francois. Actually, we were in London filming Running Up That Road, and
great song.
Well, he's so great at knowing what would look good. You know, he'd already knew the area he wanted to film. He was like, this, the lighting is fantastic there. I think we can really pull it off. I think, and then he had this one scene, which we did it so many times, and it was basically walking down the center of this busy road. There was, I think there was a slight space, and then there was massive traffic coming from both ways, double laned traffic. And he wanted me in the middle, and him walking and me lip syncing to the song, dead dramatic into camera with all these cars back and forth. And he said, I know this is going to be horrendous for you, but just take a look at the shot. So he filmed a bit and showed me what it would look like. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. But I really had to keep it together because people were beeping and people were laughing and pointing. And I just had to, you know, and it was, we kept repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, there would have been a point where I would have crumbled doing this. I would have just felt so uncomfortable. It would have shown in the performance. Yeah. But somehow I was able to just snap into it and just stay focused and not let these people who, of course, probably looking at me going, what the hell is he doing? That's
amazing that you're able to do that. That's something I struggled with in music videos, is I just felt extremely aware of what was going on.
It's really difficult to snap into it, and it depends as well on what's going on in yourself, because I haven't, that it's not always been that way. I remember once that I'd had this gap of not doing anything, and then somebody wanted to do a photo shoot with me, and I couldn't do it. You know, they were like, relax, you're looking a bit nervous, and for some reason I thought, I've done this so many times, why am I feeling now I can't do it? It was like there was this block that I just couldn't get over. I remember that. Luckily that's passed, but that came, you know, considering all the experience with the boy band. But as I said, I had lost my confidence on many levels after the boy band. I think that's what that can do to you, because it's just constantly coming from outside. So you just start relying on what is coming from outside rather than what, you know, you've got going on inside. It becomes all about that, which is really different, because you become very vulnerable then to outside responses and justification, instead of being true to yourself and knowing that that's what's important, and everything else is coming after that. But it's always that's the most important. This will be what follows from that, but not that, and then I'll feel good. Wrong way around, you know. And that was a big lesson for me after the boy band and during the boy band, because it just came so quickly, and it was all this adoration. So I just got completely like hypnotized by that. And then I had to learn the hard way to get out of it. Now I'm really grateful, because it's made me who I am today. So
that's amazing, man. So, but you're not letting off though. You're not letting off the pace of it all, because, you know, as the time of filming this, you're about to fly off to Germany very shortly.
Yes. This is for some meet and greets.
Amazing.
In 3 different parts of Germany. So it'll be for the weekend. And then I've got some gigs lined up with Caught in the Act, because we do a lot of 90s parties and festivals, which that will be mainly through the summer. But I think there are a few in November and December as well. And then my solo stuff, and I've got the jailhouse, which is my normal business, if you like, that I have in this country. So it's great. Fingers in many pies, as most of us have to do nowadays to make a living. It's very rare nowadays that you see somebody with just the one job. It's quite often, especially in the creative world, we're often doing a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, and just to kind of,
Yeah, it's very much taking that entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? And kind of, I can do a bit of this, I can do a bit of that. You're learning and adapting and all the time, it is I think that's what a lot of young people that I've encountered, students especially, they go like, yeah, well, I'm just gonna get a record deal and that's it. And I'm like, listen, it's not like that anymore. It wasn't even necessarily like that back in the day anyway. It certainly isn't like that now. You have to be more aware, more adaptable, more resilient than ever before,
Yeah, I think, and then this is where it's so much more important now to be connected to yourself rather than outside of yourself, because I think if you're not, there are just so many aspects of it that could throw you off, because you just think of the immense amount of competition and out there, there's a lot to kind of have fear about or to doubt yourself about. And I think that's where more than ever now we're like needing to be connected to ourselves and just come from that place and then let everything else just sort itself out, if you like.
Absolutely, man.
The connection.
Yeah, well said, man. Some great advice from anyone who's watching and listening. Really needs to pay attention to that, because I
still have to remind myself, It's something that you have to kind of go, oh my God, I'm just getting caught up in something that I have no control over, but what I do have control over is how I'm reacting to that or how I'm feeling, and that is everything. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So, on socials and stuff, you're pretty active on the old social media. Where can people find you if they don't know that you're about?
I am, yeah. Well, I'm not into TikTok. Forget that one. I think I've just... it's enough for me to do the Facebook. I'm still, one of those dinosaurs on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. They're my three avenues of social media. I stopped with the Twitter. It was just... I don't know, that to me just did not serve me at all. So it's
a cesspit.
Yes. So I've moved away from that. TikTok, I have no idea about. Everybody talks about it and goes on about it, but that's not for me. So it's
Lee, I'm surprised you're not getting your kit off, getting oiled up and getting on TikTok, mate.
Is that what they do now? Is that the... Forget you're in a connection. Just get your tits out. Get that Vaseline on. That's the other way of going about it.
That's the other way about going about things. That's great. Well, Lee, I know you're such a busy man, and I really, really appreciate your time. And it's just great to see your boat race, mate.
Absolutely. It's really lovely to speak to you too. When you said you want to do this interview, I was like, absolutely, because I knew I'd get along well with you. Because I remember, as I said, the day that you came and helped out with Francois, we hit it off and you were just easy to get along with. So
man,
I thought this would be a nice, easy interview and a lot of fun as well. So thank you also.
Dude, well, next time it'll be with red wine.
Even better.
Even red wine, yeah, absolutely. Lee, thank you so much, mate. Take it easy and all the best.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye.